Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a Kourtney Kardashian mansion speed build. So this build was a custom request. It was challenged to me because it's a really interesting house. It's like got a really interesting sort of shape and layout, curves and that kind of thing. And also just the sheer size of it was quite a challenge for me. I don't normally build mansions. I love a tiny house. I love a quaint little cottage type build. So building a big giant mansion was a huge challenge for me in itself. So I built this house in Del Sol Valley in the biggest lot at the very top of the hill. It's a 64 by 64 lot because I just felt like we would need the space, and we definitely did use up a lot of the space, like lengthwise, widthwise, I guess, and a lot of the sort of land space was taken up by landscaping as well, because Kourtney's got, you know, a massive backyard with a big pool and basketball court, an entertaining area and what have you. So here I am just attempting to get the shape right. The shape itself took me a really long time, just because, as you can see from the reference photo, it's just got a lot of interesting angles that we couldn't quite achieve in The Sims, since in The Sims we're pretty much restricted to 90 degrees or 45 degrees. To me, Kourtney has one of the best houses out of her whole family. She was always into interior design and that kind of thing, and her house was even featured on Architectural Digest. So I was excited that this was the one that was redeemed, and that this was the one that I would get to decorate and, well, attempt to decorate and attempt to build, just because it has the most interesting architectural features and really beautiful design as well, not sort of just weird stark modern style, but it actually had a really nice style inside. So I've got a few facts about her house. It's a 6-bedroom, 12,000 square foot mansion in Calabasas that she purchased in 2014 for $8.5 million. So our build doesn't actually even include all 6 bedrooms and all the different sort of living areas and sitting areas, the great rooms. So our house ended up including just her master bedroom and the 3 kids' rooms. We included the living room, office space, big kitchen, as well as a little like chef's kitchen as well. We did, of course, include the glam room, which I feel like is pretty important to include, so that was also included. It took me a really long time just to get all the exterior walls and the exterior shape right. I feel like every time I looked at the photo, I saw something new that I missed. Like I missed a little certain nook or, you know, a piece jutting out kind of thing. But here we are finally working on the front gate. As you can see, she's kind of got this like big wall at the front with a little blue door, which I've tried to replicate there. And then it looks like there's like a little courtyard garden behind that wall. So I popped in that little hexagonal roof, but I believe I swap it out for a round roof later on, because as you can see, she's got the round roofs, and since I couldn't really incorporate a lot of curves inside simply because The Sims doesn't allow it, I really wanted to stay true to having those like nice curves, so I wanted to keep that element at least within the roofs. The roofing was also a challenge, but I think we ended up doing a really good job with it. Fun fact, if you saw this when we were live, I actually got up to about this point and then my game had actually crashed and I lost all of this progress. I lost a lot of the actual shell building, and I lost a lot of the roofing as well, which was pretty time consuming. But anyways, here we are. I'm trying to put this little round roof on. I couldn't get it to sit completely, like perfectly aligned with the round platform. So that's why, as you can see, I'm kind of just sort of fiddling around, trying to figure out something to make it work. Trying to put in these extra walls doesn't really look that good. Yeah, it was definitely really tricky to get this to look perfectly correct. But in the end, I ended up using some platforms to cover up the sort of the middle of that round roof, because in her pictures you only see sort of like the edge of the roofs. So I ended up using platforms to cover the entire roof. So I'm putting all these little corner pieces down, all the edges down now, one by one, adjusting them all as we go. And then the roof, there were so many parts, there were so many little sections that we had to do one by one, but I think the overall effect ended up looking really good. I'm putting the little platforms in now, having to adjust them all just to make sure that it covers up all those loose corners in the roof, because I basically wanted it to look like a continuous roof, you know, outlining the edge of the roof. And here I am just adding more platforms, expanding them and making them all connect, and then we just made the roof all white. Just continuing roofing now the little rooms at the side, using the same technique, looking pretty good, and just adding some little roof trim now. I'm just making this front gate wall a bit taller now as well, and now now I'm trying to replace that hexagonal roof with the round roof. This round roof gave us a lot of grief. I think we see later on, I think it might be in part 2, when I do the interiors, you'll see how much we struggled to get that round roof to behave, and unfortunately some sacrifices were made because it was just simply impossible to have that nice round roof and also have a balcony on the inside. But you'll see that in part 2. Here we are doing the backyard, or the back balcony. She's got this great big patio on the ground floor, and I think we might have used our imagination a little bit for this section. I ended up giving her a big balcony around the back as well, so that balcony actually ended up being her like master bedroom balcony, and we went a little crazy furnishing that back balcony. You'll see that in part 2. So like I mentioned before, I spent a long time getting just this shape right. Every time I looked at the photo, I was like, oh wait, there's this little room around the side that I've missed here, and then I'd have to go back and add it in. Just extending the house out a little bit more. I ended up making those side rooms like the garage, I believe. I just wanted to make the house big and expansive, basically. I wanted to really, you know, use up all the land that was available to us, because her estate is, you know, it's sprawling, it's very expansive. So yes, as you can see here, this little L shape or little U shape, it ended up being a garage, and then in the little nook there were some stairs going down into the basement gym. So still adding roofs. I straight up don't know how to do roofing for that angle, the 135-degree angle. I don't think it's possible, because I tried really hard and I don't think you can actually do it. I tried using all the different roofs, like, you know, the hexagonal roof and that kind of thing, this little half roof thing as well, and it just would not work. I just don't think it's possible, and unless there is a way, please let me know. And now just putting more roofing on the little side rooms as well. And this was another section that I wasn't sure how to roof, because again, that angle, so as you can see, kind of glossed over it, but that angle still didn't look quite right. But it's The Sims, you kind of just have to take what you're given. So we're just filling out the rest of the roof with the platform and now moving the house into place so it sits nicely on the lot. So we've flipped back to the back balcony now. I'm just trying to add some fencing or railing around it since it is a balcony. These round fencing pieces, or these round little corner platforms, are kind of new to me. I haven't really used them that much before. So it was a lot of trial and error in this build, trying to figure out exactly how they work. And they are quite temperamental. The round corners, you really have to work with them. They don't really work with you. So you have to kind of build around them because a lot of the times walls and rooms don't really sit right in the round sections. So we're just adding these pillars that I found in Debug as these big pillars around the back of her house, and just using tool mod to sink them down into the ground a little bit. So now I'm trying to create the wooden sort of slatted awning roof that sits upstairs. I found these little planks in Live Edit and I'm using them to basically construct that nice round sort of awning look. I used tool mod to rotate them all so they sat flat, and now I'm just grabbing more of those planks, rotating them with tool mod, and then elevating them with tool mod so that they all sort of sit in like a nice smooth line. Tool mod is a really good tool to use if you're really wanting to build precisely. So now I'm just adding some chimneys to fill in the little sections that the platform couldn't reach. So like I was saying before, with the round sections, the round platforms, the round foundations, they're really temperamental and you can't, they just don't like to touch other things. They don't like to touch other platforms and other walls. So I had to fill them in with some chimney. She's got a lot of sort of, ducting and pipes and sunroofs on her roof. So I'm just trying to recreate all of that using, these random little glass awnings to form her skylights, and just using other roof decorations to form all the ducting and that sort of thing. I'm filling in the walls with doors now and windows. Now the windows were another component of this build that was really tricky. It was just really hard to recreate, and because we didn't quite have the correct windows that she has, out of all the windows in The Sims, it took me a really long time to settle on which windows that I wanted to use. And I believe throughout I changed the windows multiple times. But here I am just trying to carve out the balconies throughout her house, basically just cutting them out of the walls. So yes, I swapped the windows out several times. Windows in general have always been a little tricky for me. I find it just quite hard to figure out how to make it look all balanced, but I think we do an okay job. So I'm just adding some more decorations around the outside, the little planter, and of course making it grey, adding some pillars just to add a little bit more decoration, a bit more dimension to the outside of the house, because it's all flat grey, and grey is just one of those colours that looks really flat. So just adding some pillars and decorations just to make it look a little bit more dimensional. So now we've got Kourtney's iconic sunken in basketball court. I honestly have a lot of questions about these basketball courts. It seems like a lot of these mansions have these sunken in basketball courts. Oh, I guess it makes sense because then the ball doesn't go everywhere. Okay, now it makes sense to me. So this is an iconic basketball court because if you are a Kardashians connoisseur, then you know that the whole Chloe berating Kourtney about not having Wi-Fi in the basketball court occurs here. So here I am using platforms to sink it down and then also create the steps leading out of it. So just one by one, making the platforms just elevate one step up. And now we're just coloring in the floor with some blue outline and adding in some stone steps. This is where I wanted the stairs leading down to the basement to go. So we're just popping some stairs in. This was actually quite tricky to achieve because I wanted there to be a void just in front of the stairs, and as you can see, I'm kind of confused. I don't quite know how to do it, but I think we eventually get there. There we go. By creating the downstairs room first and then forming walls around it and then putting the stairs leading up in, if that makes any sense. I get back to that later on because I wanted to focus on the backyard here. The backyard, I think, was one of my favorite parts of this house. I think I enjoyed doing the exterior of this mansion more than the interior, because the interior, I was trying so hard to go off of photos and it was just really hard to find objects in The Sims that looked like her beautiful, nice designer furniture. It was just a struggle. I don't think it looks as lush and premium as her house, but I do think the exterior does look quite good. So here I am just adding some flooring to the outline of our structure, and now just repeating that same technique I used on the upstairs balcony with these slats to create that wooden awning roof. So again, using tool mods, selecting them all, rotating them all slightly, and then rotating them on the other axis until it's all straight in 90 degrees. I'm just moving them into place a little here, moving them down, moving them in place, and then again using the same slats, sizing it up, putting it in the right spot, rotating it until it's 90 degrees, until it looks, it does look like one of those wooden awnings. I'm trying to find a pillar now. The pillars in the game that are actually in the pillar section, they don't, you can't move them freely by holding down the Alt key, so I had to use tool mod again to just nudge them into place. We're jumping all over the place, but we're back in the front now. I've just found these stone tiles. I think these are debug or live edit. So I found these little stone tiles and I'm just arranging them in this little offset brick pattern to form the front path up to her house. So I'm using the round fencing or the round blocks again to make the nice curved hedges in her front yard. You guys know I love landscaping, so I had a blast as usual doing this landscaping, although I did kind of encounter a few issues which I think we'll get to later, but I really liked doing this sort of round curved design with the hedges. It really makes it look like a special entrance, I think. And then I've just filled out the front with some tall trees and these cherry blossom trees, which I think look so nice, and they actually kind of look like the trees that she has in her front yard. I'm not entirely sure what types of trees she has. We're just kind of winging it. And then filling out the landscaping with some colorful flowers, colorful shrubs. I don't think she actually has shrubs in her front garden. I think they're actually just like roses and that sort of thing, but I thought it looked nice. It just, the volume of the shrubs just makes it look a lot nicer, a lot richer, I think. I outlined the stone fence with some more flowery shrub. So now on the inside, I'm just sort of cutting out these grass sections and then filling them in with the little flowery grass, and then taking those same stone tiles and then creating a creating the same pattern for the path. Now at some point I think I must have discovered this other roof decoration, because I found it, I saw it, and then I ended up putting that on the roof. And then I must have also discovered a pillar in Debug that I thought looked more like the pillars in her house, so I've just sized them up and replaced the pillars around the back. Back to the front now. As you just saw, I couldn't terrain paint over the, you know, the round foundation block, so I'm just covering it up with more plants. Basically, that's kind of just how I build. If there's anything, if there's mistakes, if there's, you know, something that the Sims won't allow you to do and it doesn't look quite right, more frequently than not, my strategy is just to cover it with plants. And this rule applies for interior decorating as well as, you know, exterior landscaping. So there, you can barely tell. And now I'm just using more terrain painting to shade around the trees, because it looks like she's got sort of like sand gravel around her trees. And then around the back I've added in some more palm trees, and now I just want to do a little bit of landscaping in her backyard. So we've just used terrain paint tool again to make these little gardens, I guess, near the balcony, near the patios. And I'm just using some rocks that I believe these are Debug or Live Edit. So I've just sized them down, I think, and just arranging them so it kind of looks like a little trim around the garden. I wanted to keep it sort of that like Californian desert vibe, so I used these little, are they agave? I don't know, but these sort of like succulent looking plants that look like that you would find them in a Californian desert. I didn't like the brown, the soil, so I'm just replacing it with a lighter sand. I hope you enjoyed watching part 1 of my Kourtney Kardashian mansion build. I don't know if we're gonna do 2 or 3 parts. It might just be a 2-parter, but that was the majority of the exterior, the outside, done in this video. I do more of the backyard, and I think I do more around the outside later on, but you'll see that later. And then, yeah, obviously the next parts will also include all the interiors. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!